Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Adventures of Blink. I'm, of course, Blink, and you can find me on GitHub right here. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button. I don't release constantly like a lot of YouTubers yet. I'm just getting into this. It's sort of a hobby and a lark, and you'll miss out on upcoming episodes if you're not subscribed where you'll get the notification. And if you're enjoying the content, if you think it's helpful or useful, or if you just thought it was fun to watch, hit that like button so that I know you're enjoying yourself, that was good content, and I can make more stuff like it. So this season has been all about the developer experience. We're taking common everyday problems that developers face and finding ways to fix them, finding ways to prevent them from being a serious issue. But I told you last week that we're hitting this sort of inflection point because we're going to move from these sort of lofty, abstract ways of looking at it into something a little more realistic. Today, everything changes. The Gilded Rose is famous in some coding circles and infamous in others. The mission is simple. We're going to dig into the code, we're going to figure out how it works, and we're going to make life better for the next developer who happens this way. Now, in order to build this out, we're going to walk through it from absolute scratch, so you can follow along easily. I don't even have it loaded on my computer yet. We're going to do that as part of the opening exercise today. And then over the next few episodes, we're going to refactor the code base. We're going to establish some of the practices that you and I have already talked about. Things that will make it better, make it easier to work in, make it more reliable and friendly and helpful. And then by the end of the season, we should have something that's easy to move around in, that's easy to make changes to. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are. So this is the Gilded Rose Git repository. And in it, you can actually see a ton of different languages. I'll just kind of scroll down the list here so you can take a look. It's been ported into all these languages because the goal here is not to learn the language. The goal is to learn the process of refactoring, the process of cleaning up and making code production ready. So what they did was create the same exercise implemented in all these different languages, and you pick the one you're comfortable with. For the purposes of the show, I'm going to be doing everything in Python because that's my happy place to live. So that's what I'll be using. And I'll make sure that there's a link to this repository in the description so that you can just go click it and you can follow along. I really hope that you'll actually do this exercise alongside me and we can work together. I'd also love to hear from you. Throw things in the comments. If you see something and you think, hey, why would you do it that way? You have questions. Or the other way would be, hey, I tried it this way and it made better sense. Maybe let's just share ideas in that manner. But I'd love to be part of this in a two-way discussion. So let's try that out, shall we? I'm going to go on ahead and grab the address here, and I'm going to drop into my VS Code editor, and now I'm going to do git clone and then we will go into the Python world. And what I'm going to do is open the folder, and for the sake of the exercise, just to keep like the screen cleaner, I'm going to look at only the Python folder, even though technically like you could open up the whole project in here and have everything. This gives me the ability now to show you directly what it looks like in Python. So it's time to get started. What are we going to do with the Gilded Rose? Well, I mean, we could take a look around and see what we have. So gildedrose.py seems to be the class that we're going to be working on. And it has an init method. It has update quality, which has a whole bunch of stuff going on in it. And it has an item class. Okay, I'm not really sure what we learned from that. The first lesson that you can take away here is I don't see any comments. Remember, we talked about that as part of our experience, that Code documentation is a critical element. Coming into this cold as somebody who's never seen the project before, you're not going to have the background in it to understand why we care if an item.name is not equal to aged brie. That doesn't make any sense. What are we even talking about? What's going on? We can see in our requirements, we have a few things that are pulled in here. There's PyTest. Actually, most of what we've pulled in is about testing, actually all of it. So it appears that test suites are important to the use of this thing. There's a text test fixture.py. What's in here? So there's a main function and stuff happens. And I don't really understand what that means. Again, we're in a place where we've actually seen code now that isn't commented, and there's no idea. We were talking about aged brie a minute ago, and now we have a +5 dexterity vest. Is this some sort of weird Food Network meets Dungeons and Dragons thing? I don't know what's going on. What is the Gilded Rose? Well, let's try the README and see what's inside. Gilded Rose starting position in Python. For exercise instructions, see top level README. Okay, so there's another README. And then there's a whole bunch of instructions here that just talk about how to use the Python version. So let's go look at the top level README and see what's inside there. So reading over the Gilded Rose README, you can find out more about this exercise in my YouTube video, Why Developers Love the Gilded Rose Kata. I'm really hoping that we learn to love it. There's also a video of a worked solution in Java if you want to look at that and maybe cheat yourself ahead a little bit. This is something that was created to be used for someone who's a technical coach. So here's how to use the kata. Simplest way is just to clone the code and start hacking away, improving the design. You'll want to look at the Gilded Rose requirements, which explain what the code is for. Okay, well, let's go look at those. Oh, and this took us back to the webpage. Okay. Hi and welcome to Team Gilded Rose. As you know, we are a small inn with a prime location in a prominent city ran by a friendly innkeeper named Allison. We also buy and sell only the finest goods. Unfortunately, our goods are constantly degrading in quality as they approach their sell-by date. We have a system in place that updates our inventory for us. It was developed by a no-nonsense type named Leroy, who has moved on to new adventures. Your task is to add the new feature to our system so that we can begin selling a new category of items. First, an introduction to our system. Then we have some rules. All items have a sell-in value, which denotes the number of days we have to sell the items. All items have a quality value, which denotes how valuable the item is. At the end of each day, our system lowers both values for every item. Pretty simple, right? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Once the sell-by date has passed, quality degrades twice as fast. The quality of an item is never negative. Aged brie actually increases in quality the older it gets. The quality of an item is never more than 50. Sulfurous, being a legendary item, never has to be sold or decreases in quality. Backstage passes like aged brie increase in quality as its sell-in value approaches. Quality increases by 2 when there are 10 days or less, and by 3 when there are 5 days or less, but quality drops to 0 after the concert. We have recently signed a supplier of conjured items. This requires an update to our system. Conjured items degrade in quality twice as fast as normal items. And as such, its quality is 80 and it never alters. Well, that was a mouthful. There's a ton of rules around this thing. Let's see if we can get started now. So first of all, run the unit tests from the command line. Python-m unit test. Okay, so There's also a suggestion in here that I will definitely follow, which is create a Python virtual environment for this project and see the documentation on how to use that. Since I'm already familiar with how to do that, let's come in here and just do this. We will create it. No VS Code, I don't need your help on this one. I got it. And now we're going to do source. Okay. Now, if you're on a Windows box, your path there is going to look different. It's going to be, instead of bin, it's going to be scripts. That's just a feature of the way that Windows implements Python, but everything else should look exactly the same in the Windows version. Mac and Linux follow this pattern. So now we can see I've got the decorator on there that I'm in my virtual environment. The next thing I'm going to do is oh wait, I did that backwards. Pip install -r requirements.txt. And you should always keep your pip up to date. It's just easier to work in later if something goes weird on you. All right. So now we have a virtual environment that's set up and has the requirements.txt installed. Let's see what happens if we do exactly as they suggest. Python we run the test and we get a failure. Fix me is not equal to foo. So we're getting an assertion from line 12 of test gilded rows. Let's go see what that looks like. There's line 12, and it says we assert that fix me should equal the name. So we saw that item 0.name became foo, right? We can see that we're doing fix me is not equal to foo. Okay. So the first thing to do then would be to update the test, and that should take care of that. So let's drop in here and rerun the unit test, and now we have a success. So we've made our first change, which is to get our broken unit test working. Let's go see what else the README has to tell us. Run the text test fixture from the command line, for example, for 10 days. So if we do this, Python text test underscore fixture.py 10. You should make sure the command shown above works when you execute it in a terminal before trying to use text test. See below. Okay, so let's try it. Okay, and this gave us a massive amount of output because this is effectively a simulator. And so if I scroll back up here, here's my 10 days run. Day 0, this is my initial information. So this is the stuff that we ran through the test suite. And we can see what it did. And then we can see the changes that are made. Now this test suite obviously should be operating by the rules that we were given because this has been part of the function for all of this time. So we'll see like aged brie started with I'm not sure how to read this, just a second. I think that's the number of days. So it has 2 days before it has to be sold, and the price is 0. And then on the next day, it's got 1 day left, and the price has gone up because aged brie does that. I remember reading that from the rules. But the elixir of the mongoose, for instance, has 5 days left, and it's a value of 7. 4 days left, it goes down to 6. So it loses value each day. Then we have sulfurous, and it's in here with 2 different types of tests. So on day 0, it was 0 and 80, and the value did not change. It's not supposed to change. And I'm not sure why there's a -1. We'll have to look into that, see if we can find more about it. Backstage passes. So each of those has its different things that happen, and then a conjured manna cake. So that starts with the value of 3 and 6, and it goes to 2, 5, and it goes to 1, 4. And then you'll see as things go past their sell-by dates, so if it goes below 0, then the next one goes down twice as fast. All right, so let's go back and take a look at the main code of this thing and see if we can start to make a little sense out of it. I'll shrink my terminal back down here and get it out of the way. And we'll go on ahead and close down all of this stuff, and let's go see if the code makes a little bit better sense this time around. So if I go into gildedrose.py, I have a single class called Gilded Rose. The init has a list of items that are passed into it. So I'm instantiating a list of items that are apparently the inventory of the store. Update quality is going to be something that processes each item. So I see a for loop in here for the list of items, and we're going to go through the exercise of updating their quality, updating their sell-by dates, all of that stuff, in terms of getting things to be updated on a daily basis. And then down at the bottom is class item, which contains the name, the sell-by date, or the sell-in number of days, and the quality value of each thing. So if you're like me, you look at a code base like this and you think, that's terrifying, that's ugly, that's horrible, it needs to be fixed. And your first reaction is, we should dive in and start refactoring everything. But here's the thing, you don't want to swing a hammer in a haunted house. First, you need to check and see if the floor is going to hold. In code terms, that's going to mean tests. Without them, every change we make is a gamble. All right, so here's the plan. Step 1 is don't touch that code. I know it's ugly looking. The Gilded Rose class is a mess, but we're not going to touch it at all. We're going to start in the test suite. There's one test, we got it working, and it says it passes, but it's obviously not comprehensive. It's not testing all the rules that the Gilded Rose has. We need to build that out in a way that we can see that anytime we pass in actual data, no matter how ugly the code is, it still follows the rules. And then once we have that fast feedback loop working, we're ready to go ahead and start making changes, because safety first. Without that test suite, I can't move an inch without possibly breaking the whole app. So it's critical for me to start in that test world. And once the tests are set up, once we have understanding that we are following the rules, then we can suddenly refactor everything, and we'll be confident in our changes along the way. The perspective we need to keep is that this isn't just about me. When you're a developer, you're often the first explorer on these legacy projects. You feel every one of those broken steps so that you can warn, or better yet, just fix it for all the people who come after you. The README, the setup scripts, the tests, those are not optional extras. They're survival gear. What we saw in the Gilded Rose gave us barely enough to get started with. So we're going to do the hard work, and we're going to set it up so that it's safer for everybody who follows after. And that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. This is just the beginning of our Gilded Rose journey. The rest of the season is going to be about refactoring this thing and fixing it and having something we can be proud of at the end. Next time, we're going to descend into the test vault. The creaky, half-abandoned test vault where all change begins. If we can restore safety there, then we can have a real adventure. I'll see you next time.